So Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
So I take this opportunity to officially welcome His Grace Nimāi Prabhu. So he is in charge of the ISKM China Center, and he's humbly given us his association today in a very fitting manner. This Nityananda Travidasi is just 2 days ago. Today we sing Nitāi Padakamana, and today Nitāi is giving class.
Nitāi dāsa.
So please.
Okay.
Please.
So I think many of you already know him. He's preaching in China, which is the hardest land to crack.
This one do control plus
There you are banned from practicing any religious, any society is banned, any religious practice is banned, even if you are sending messages, any message like from court, anything, and you will be tracked and your account will be banned. And then they will chase after you. That is the kind of country he is preaching in. And I think you might be knowing because he has a very famous YouTube channel as well. And he has a lot of people who listen to him from India, in many parts of India and also many parts of the world. And I don't know if you know that he made a video on again Zakir Naik. It's one of his most prolific videos. The extent of Vedic evidence that he presented in that video, proving him to be false, is astounding. You should watch it. It's a 1 hour video. Amazing work. So a lot of very powerful videos is created and spreading messages of Sanatana Dharma. Although sitting in China, where YouTube is banned, where YouTube is banned, Google is banned, everything is banned there. But he's preaching from there and reaching out to the world. So welcome here today, and it is a great fortune to be in this association. No, it doesn't matter. We will stay. Go that way.
Okay, so Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you very much. So how to deal with praises like this? Of course, the devotees are very kind-hearted. They always want to be seeing the good in others. So one day, Subala Prabhu told me, he saw my astrology chart, and he said, no, you have something that has to do with a lion. So he said, when a lion yawns, it's nothing, but people are, wow. So this is my curse. I do nothing, and people are kind of think that I do much. So, thank you. I would like to first, of course, offer my humble obeisances to the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I would like to offer my obeisances to His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu, who has, tirelessly preached in a very, very difficult country. Although we say China is difficult, Singapore is also very, very difficult. And last time I came was some 3 years ago, 4 years. Yes, and I can see many, new faces, and even when I see the videos that are shared from Singapore, I see how it just keeps increasing. So this is Prabhu's potency. Also, I'd like to offer my obeisances to Shrimanta Vidas Brahmachari, who's always so dedicated to push the movement, tirelessly doing online classes, and to all the other Vaishnavas. So thank you very much to allow me to speak a little bit today. So we shall speak from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 28. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is read now or after purport? Om Jnanati Mirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svanupakadamaham Dadati Svapadantikam Vanderam Shri Guruho Shri Vikamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Tamsyam Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padare Krishna Preshna Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Vishikarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 28. So this Prabhupada books.com had some problem recently, so the N with the S on top is appearing as question mark. vedeṣu, in the study of the Vedas. So first, just Sanskrit or just line first. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva. dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam. dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam. atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā. atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā. yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam.
vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva
vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva
dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam
dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam
atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā
atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā
yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam
yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam.
vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva
dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam upaiti cādyam. vedeṣu yajñeṣu tapaḥsu caiva dāneṣu yat puṇya-phalaṁ pradiṣṭam atyeti tat sarvam idaṁ viditvā yogī paraṁ sthānam cādyam. vedeṣu, in the study of the Vedas. Yajñeṣu, in the performances of yajna. Yeah, life is here. So, I believe they see my screen, right? They see, huh? Tapaḥsu, undergoing different types of austerities. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Dāneṣu, in giving charities. Yat, that which. Puṇya-phalaṁ, the result of pious work. Pradiṣṭam, directed. Atyeti, surpasses. Tat, all those. Sarvam idaṁ, all those described above. Viditvā, knowing. Yogī, the devotee. Paraṁ, supreme. Sthānam, abode. Upaiti, achieved peace. Cha, also. Cādyam, original. Translation. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode. Please repeat. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode. Purport. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, particularly as the chapters deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmachari. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for a period from 5 to 25 to 20 years, he may become a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he also has to perform many sacrifices and strive to further enlightenment. Then, after retiring from household life, upon accepting the order of vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, such as living in forests, dressing in tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmachari, householder, vanaprastha, and finally sannyas, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, or in the Vaikuntha planets, or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all rituals of the different orders of life. One should try to understand the 7th and 8th chapters of the Gita, not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with pure devotees. Chapters 6 through 12 are the essence of the Gita. If one is fortunate to understand the Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. One should hear the Gita from the devotee because at the beginning of the 4th chapter it is stated that the Gita can only be perfectly understood by devotees. Hearing the Gita from devotees, not from mental speculators, is called faith. Through association of devotees, one is placed in devotional service. And by this service, Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, etc. become clear. And all misgivings are dispelled. Then one's doubts are removed. The study of the Gita becomes extremely pleasurable, and one develops a taste and feeling for Krishna consciousness. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. And that is the beginning of the highest perfectional stage of life, which prepares the devotee's transferal to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee enters into eternal happiness. So, the whole spectrum of spiritual advancement is based on faith. Because there's a difference between outwardly performing devotional service and actually realizing the importance of it. So as you know, the verse, Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha, everything starts from faith. But this faith increases throughout the whole process of devotional service. So, in order to concretize this knowledge, one has to come to the platform of Vijnana. There are two words, Jnana and Vijnana. So this Jnana, anyone can get by reading Bhagavad Gita. But to realize is a different thing. How does Jnana becomes Vijnana? That happens only by the mercy of the spiritual master. So how to get the mercy? So one has to follow the instructions the best as he can. One has to be sincere, These things, what is it here? The result derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity and pursuing philosophical, fruitive activities. We have to be able to distinguish these things from devotional service. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to pinpoint what actually devotional emotions are. There's a mixture. We all start from mixed type of devotional service, right? 4 types of pious men approaches the Lord. So the desire of wealth, one who is suffering, the inquisitive, and he who is in search of the absolute truth, right? So we all start from there. At least most of us, very special souls who have advanced many lifetimes or who come from the spiritual world are not going through that process. But for us, normal devotees, we come like this. So how to dissect, how to filter these mundane desires from the pure devotional process? So that requires devotee association. We cannot advance to a higher path of devotional life unless we associate with a devotee who is on that platform. So, personally speaking, when I started reading Srila Prabhupada's books, there was so many doubts. I was doubting a lot. And this was an internal fight, and I'm sure most devotees go through this. In my case, I was reading, and many things I was maybe, that I like, this not so much. So there is a purifying process that we have to go through. But on my own, I was just going through ups and downs. It was really tough, At that time, I had no devotee association. I started actually reading Bhagavad Gita in China in 2014. And so I started chanting on my own. But it was so hard. It's only when I met His Grace Sunagopa Prabhu, Tallavit Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, that time they came to China, then I saw what is a devotee. Before that, I could not pinpoint. I had seen some devotees, but there was no this understanding of having strong faith in Shastra and in Srila Prabhupada's words. So this Shraddha has to be cultivated. So Srila Prabhupada here, towards the end of the purport, he says, hearing the Gita from devotees, not from mental speculators, is called faith. So this hearing process is actually very important because it cleanses. Although we might be having doubts, we might not like at times, in the beginning you sit there and you listen to the philosophy, it's not very palatable. But Srila Prabhupada says that through forced hearing, you must force yourself to sit down and continue to hear and hear and hear. Then the cleansing of the heart will happen. So we always have to try to be hearing. Now we have got these gadgets, so we should always try to have some transcendental sounds in the house. In our house, I have one phone. My older phone is the iPhone 6, so it's old. I don't care. I use it as a music player. So it's always there on the wall, and it's always playing. I never turn it off. So the cleansing happens like this. And classes, right? Srila Prabhupada's classes we have. So while washing the dishes or while cleaning the yard, it doesn't matter. Always try to hear as much as possible. And by this constant hearing, somehow or other, the heart will get clean. We won't understand how, but it will happen. So it is not easy to distinguish material activity from devotional service in the beginning, because everything is mixed up. Here Srila Prabhupada speaks that one becomes engaged in devotional service by the devotees. So, I'm not seeing where, but the devotees will let us know what is devotional service and what isn't. And there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, if anyone can help, that the Lord says that to make distinction between material activities and spiritual activities, one has to have knowledge. So, to give you an example, in the beginning, when I started, I had many mental speculation. You know that Mahabharata series, right? The 2016 or something. So in the beginning, I thought that to arrange for some Chinese subtitles for that was devotional service. I was alone. I didn't have any guidance. So I was thinking, oh, in China, they don't have subtitles. Let's make subtitles that it's related to Krishna, right? It speaks about Krishna, Arjuna, and so on. So we make many mistakes like that in the beginning because we do not understand what is the actual position. Pure devotional service means to follow the orders of the spiritual master. That's it, without any mental speculation and without any consideration for the self. The problem is we tend to be very comfortable, especially the grihastas. Most of us here are grihastas. Grihasta ashram means comfort, right? We have got wives, we have got children, so we feel comfortable. The wife cooks palatable dishes and so on. So it's very hard to develop that mood of pushing this movement forward and not caring for one's own comfort. And the longer we are in the ashram, the longer we are used to that, the harder it is to change. So that's why we have to be associating with devotees who are renounced. We are very, very fortunate to have His Grace Srila Gopal Prabhu, who's Vanaprastha, who can show us what it is to be renounced. So, not the best notes to open. So Nagopal Prabhu recently he shared, right, those 26 types of hell. I don't know if you've received the message, so I saved that in that. Yeah, here. So we have 9 types of contaminated devotional service. One type only is pure. So here it is. So this is a conversation, I believe it was okay. O best among kings, that devotional service which is like a great fire for a forest of sins is understood to be divided into 10 types according to the broad categories of tamasa bhakti, devotion in the mode of ignorance, rajasi bhakti, devotion in the mode of passion, and sattviki bhakti, devotion in the mode of goodness. Adhama tamasi bhakti, low-level devotion in the material mode of ignorance. Okay, so here is just the list, but we shall go directly to the description. O king, that devotional service towards the Lord of Sri Lakshmi, which is performed for revengefully destroying someone, is known as adhama tamasi bhakti, low-level devotion in the material mode of ignorance, for it consists of rogue-like tendencies. So you know, in the third canto, Kapila Dev describes. But it is described divided in three. He goes to mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. But here they are subdivided again, because in the mode of ignorance also you have low, middle, and high in this way. So here that means there are some people who perform devotional service or so-called devotional service to vengeful, to destroy someone. So this exists. So Shastra is telling us that there are such devotees. So devotee should not be seen externally, that everybody with a tilak and with a chanting Hare Krishna is worth to be associating with. No, Shastra says there are some people like this. So we have to be wary. We have to learn to recognize through Shastra. Rogue-like tendencies. One who worships Lord Jagannath, also known as Narayan, with a deceitful heart, like an unchaste wife worshipping her husband, performs madhyama tamasi bhakti, intermediate devotion in the material mode of ignorance. So this deceitful heart, recently, maybe a year ago, there was one devotee who started to come back to our yatra in China. So that devotee, there was some misunderstanding maybe 6-7 years ago with him. So he started to come back, so we welcomed him, time passed, so we thought that why not give him another chance. So he's coming, and then only when, 2 days ago, so one Mataji who sometimes comes to our program, she calls me, and she starts to apologize. Actually, she didn't call me directly, she called the Banga Mataji, and she then talked to me, and she said, I'm sorry, Prabhu, I've committed offense, spoken back against you, and so I was telling her it's okay, no problem, we're not pure. So, and then she said, this person started to talk bad about you and talk bad about Sundar Gopal Prabhu and so on, so on, so on. So it was that devotee who came back, a year ago and started to come to our programs once in a while. But when he's in the program, he's smiling, yeah, Prabhu, you know so much, like this. So what type of heart does this person have? That you can stand in front of someone, you can smile to him, you can laugh at him, and then in his back, you can talk bad about him, talk bad against a devotee like Sundar Gopal Prabhu and so on. Deceitful heart, So very low class quality. There's no way that such a person can advance spiritually. We received him, yes, you can come back. I had no more grudge against him or anything. I even apologized when he came back. I also had committed offense against him. So I've learned that, recently, and I told the Banga Mataji, I said, what kind of man he is, don't allow him to come back again. So there are devotees like this. O maintainer of the earth, seeing the demigod worship of others, one who worships Lord Hari with a feeling of competitive enviousness is understood to be performing uttama tamasi bhakti, superior devotion in the material mode of ignorance. Yes, so we should not be puffed up to worship the Lord and try to show off in front of others who are worshiping, demigods and so on. Because the focus is on us. When we do this devotional service, when we offer lamp or sing and everything, a sign that we're advancing spiritually is that the focus will be the Lord and not actually the devotional activity itself. In the beginning, we start to have pleasure for the service itself. But when one advances more, he starts to derive pleasure because of Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada states in the Nectar of Devotion concerning the Sahaja mood that when they chant, they have a feeling of liberation. So they actually are observing themselves liberated, and that is their so-called bliss. So while we perform these devotional activities, we should try to develop this meditation upon the Lord. If we actually do this carefully, Sastra says, Srila Prabhupada says that we should be having some feeling. Some feeling should be coming in the heart. These spiritual emotions are described in the Shastra. It says the raising of the hair, the eyes become moist, and so on. So if we're doing properly, without offense, we should be starting to have at least a glimpse of what these feelings are. If it says in Bhagavatam that that heart is still like who doesn't shed tears while chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So how hard our heart is. So, yes. Equipped with a higher faith, one who worships Lord Hari, praying for money and material resources, is understood to be performing Adama Rajasi Bhakti, low-level devotion in the material mode of passion. So one who wants, material resources, he wants to be comfortable, he comes to the temple to pray for that. So he's in the lower mode of passion. Through higher devotion, one who worships Lord Madhava, while desiring material fame in all the worlds, is said to be performing Madhyama Rajasi Bhakti, intermittent devotion in the material mode of passion. This fame, because I'm performing devotional service, that is also a contamination. So that's why we have to, from the very beginning, try to understand why are we doing this. Am I trying to sing bhajan with a beautiful voice for the pleasure of the Lord, or I'm trying to have everybody praise me later on? So these things have to be cut down in the beginning, because these are all anarthas, unwanted creepers. And if we keep chanting like this, because this applies to all the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, I will sit down, I will listen, I'll sit in the front row, like this, everybody will think then I want to be honored, therefore you are listening in the mode of Madhyama Rajasi Bhakti. I will sing kirtan with I have a new tune, everybody will like. Again, Madhyama Rajasi Bhakti. We see a lot of those so-called kirtaniya, right, in the movement. They have long hair, beard, and earrings, and Krishna, like that. So Madhyama Rajasi Bhakti. You cannot advance like this. Your focus is on you. It's not on Krishna. Krishna is standing in front of you. You're thinking, how beautiful my voice sounds. This is very subtle, but we have to pinpoint that. We have to see that now. It's not that, it should not be taboo. It's not that we don't have these things. If we're not situated in pure devotional service, we're talking about ourselves here, right? One of these things should be ringing a bell. So when this occurs, when we pinpoint that wait a second, now I'm not, hearing for the Lord, I'm not doing, then we have to try to cut this down. We have to try to find where is that pure devotional service situated. Because it's not something outward, it's inward. Now, the Lord is in the heart. So this feeling should be emanating from the soul. O Lord of the earth, one who worships Lord Hari with a desire to attain liberation, such as Salokya, residing on the same planet as the Lord, is said to be performing Uttama Rajasi Bhakti, superior devotion in the material mode of passion. Just see. Here it's not even saying merging into Brahman effulgence, residing on the same planet. If our desire is to go back and I want to live on the same planet as the Lord, we are in the mode of passion still. It's Uttama, it's higher, but still Rajasi. When I read that one, I was very shocked. Even not mode of goodness, this one. Equipped with higher faith, one who worships Lord Hari expertly only to diminish his sins is said to be performing Adhama Sadvaki Bhakti, low-level devotion in the material mode of goodness. So what is sins? Sins means suffering, isn't it? I'm covered. Why am I covered? I'm suffering the threefold miseries, so on. I don't have these realization, I have to remove my sin. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, burn down the sin. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So that is lower in the mode of goodness. Because this desire to remove sins is not seen amongst the pure devotee in Srimad Bhagavatam. They do not even desire that. We have many instances of devotees who are born in demon body, right? Demon form or demon body. And they do not care to be in a demonic body. They do not say that let me have a spiritual body or so on. No, let me remain here. So these feelings, how to develop? That why the Srimad Bhagavatam is there, so that we can keep reading about these things, so that at least we see by example who is performing devotional service uncontaminated by all these subtle material desires. Equipped with faith, one who performs service because he has heard from somewhere that such and such service is dear to Lord Hari, but does not apply much intellect and realization, is said to be performing madhyama sadvaki bhakti, intermediate devotion in the material mode of goodness. So, hearing from authority, right? What is that verse? Also, because of hearing from authority, they also transcend the three modes, right? Because of their tendency to hear from authority. In the Bhagavad Gita. Because of their tendency to hear from authority, such person also transcend the three modes. So this is here Madhyama Sadviki Bhakti. Only because of the 1326. Huh? Anyetvam jananta shrutva nebhya upansate tepi chati tarantyeva mrityum shruti parayana. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about Him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So, just see how having faith into a devotee can be so potent. Immediately one comes to Madhyama Sadviki Bhakti. Simply because he hears and he has faith. So that's why this, these pious activities to serve the father and mother, listen to the teacher, bow down and so on, they are very potent when they come in touch with a pure devotee. Because then one will have the same tendency but towards a pure devotee. And then he will get the agyata sukriti, the unknown devotional service. So, we know some young devotees who take the more advanced devotees' words very, very seriously. And because of that, only their devotional service is of a high caliber. Great things can occur when we have faith in the words of the devotees. We should not think that he's not a pure devotee, he's not on the level of Srila Prabhupada. Why he's making no. Even though he's not completely liberated, if he speaks on the authority of Shastra and Srila Prabhupada, and we have faith in that, we can be proposed to the Sadviki Bhakti, Madhyama Sadviki Bhakti. Because the Lord will be pleased. Krishna likes that we serve his devotees. So if a devotee is saying, you do this, and I do it, Krishna becomes more pleased. O king, one who worships the Lord of Shri Lakshmi like a servant, with an intelligence equipped with scriptural rules and regulations, performs the topmost type of devotion in the material modes, known as Uttama Sadviki Bhakti, superior devotion in the material mode of goodness. So, you see, when one's faith is based on Shastra. So if we perform devotional service because we have faith, yes, I'm reading this, I have to do that. Prabhupada saying we must do Mangalarti, yes, I shall do it. Immediately we come to the highest of the three types of Sadviki Bhakti. So how important it is to have faith in Shastra. And when one comes to this platform, he is understood to be a Madhyamadikari. Because he has full faith in the Shastra. Very strong faith at least. Finally, knowing thoroughly the glories of Lord Hari, that human who performs anything dear to Lord Hari while being fully satisfied due to being absorbed in spontaneous devotion is said to be performing Uttamottama Bhakti, topmost devotion devoid of the material modes. One who constantly realizes that I, Vishnu, am the only transcendental Lord and that the entire world is resting upon me is to be known as the topmost devotee. So this dissection, this filtering of all that we've read here has to be done by association of devotees, by continuing the program again and again and again. But there has to be also some sincerity of purpose. We have to pray to the Lord. Praying to the Lord is very potent. Even though we might not have faith that He hears us, still He hears and He will help. So, Shri Nitāi Gaura Sundar, they very miraculously came to China in their form, deity form. Those of you might have seen in the videos how they have come. So they have come to bestow their mercy. Somehow or other, we have prayed that they come and help us, and actually they have come. At that time I was still working. I was working, kindergarten and English teacher. So I was starting to feel very much perturbed in my grihastha ashram because I have this desire that I want to preach. But when you work, you go to work and you come back, like you have to take a shower, right? And then you go back, shower meaning you have to cleanse everything you've been hearing. You go to work. I was even only working 3 hours a day. I had only part-time. But still, you go there, you see the people, the karmis, you have to interact somehow or other. Hey, hi, how are you? And sometimes you engage in conversation. So I was not happy, And I was always thinking, how can I preach? What should I do? And then in Srila Prabhupada's purport, I saw that at one, I was reading, Srila Prabhupada said that grihastha must have deities at home. If, of course, first thing, Prabhupada would like his grihastha to live in the temple itself, separately. If that cannot be done, next to the temple, and they should be engaged in the worship of the temple at the deities at the temple. If that cannot be done and they live far away, very far away, then they should have deities at home and have a very regulative program. Actually, the purport I read was yeah, so this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 23 and 24. I won't read all of this, but part here. Okay, so here, especially for the householder devotees who are opulent in material possessions, the path of deity worship is strongly recommended. An opulent householder devotee who does not engage his hard-earned money in the service of the Lord is called a miser. One should not engage paid brahmanas to worship the deity. If one does not personally worship the deity but engages paid servant instead, he is considered lazy, and his worship of the deity is called artificial. Deity worship means following the rules and regulations precisely. That will keep one steady in devotional service. So this is what I was lacking. I lacked steadiness. I had, we had pictures and all, but sometimes I would wake up, let's say 4, sometimes 4:30, sometimes 3:30. I was lacking steadiness in my grihastha ashram. And I was thinking, what is going on? What can I do to help myself spiritually? So here, grihastha devotee must adopt the archana vidhi, or deity worship, according to the suitable arrangements and directions given by the spiritual master. Okay. So, yes, okay, that's the one. Simple theoretical book knowledge is not sufficient for a neophyte devotee. Book knowledge is theoretical, whereas the yajñana process is practical. Spiritual knowledge must be developed by a combination of theoretical and practical knowledge, and that is guaranteed way for attainment of spiritual perfection. So when I read that, I understood that I need to have deities. And actually, I was very much perturbed, and I was praying to the Lord that, my dear Lord, please come and help me. I don't know what to do now. Please force me to surrender. Srila Prabhupada said that we can pray like that. I'm not willing to surrender. I won't surrender, but I can pray that, my Lord, please force me to surrender. Now, the Lord He will help, It will hurt because we have that attachment, but it will propulse us spiritually. So somehow or other, the arrangement were made and the deities came, and under the guidance or the inspiration of His Grace Bhagavad Prabhu, he told me to do the whole fire sacrifice and everything. I was thinking, do simple abhishek and then start to worship. And he told me, no, you do the whole thing, fire sacrifice. I was thinking, okay, I have to do the installation in 2 days. So, all right. And then he gives me this list of, 108 items or something. So, but because you see, I followed the words of a devotee, isn't it? I did not think Talat Prabhu is my age. No, I took it seriously and I was okay, I'll do it. And I don't know if you've seen that vlog. Miraculously, there was some sand, right? I don't know if you've seen that. I had all the items. I had no sand. It was raining, outside. Where to find sand? And even if I find sand, it'll be wet. And then I was becoming discouraged. No sand. What am I going to do? And I was getting down the lift. I was like, where am I going to find sand? I'll have to drive for hours and hours, and the ceremony was the next day. I opened the lift. I go, and there's 3 bags of sand there. And I was thinking, no way, that cannot be real. I'm looking for sand, and there's 3 bags. And I think I even filmed myself. I could not believe it. I tasted it. I thought it was brown sugar. I said, it cannot be sand. I tasted it, So when we endeavor like this, on the strength of the devotee who engages us in devotional service, such things will happen. And by such things, our faith will increase. So this is how the Lord does, First of all, you surrender. Not that He's going to be giving you faith for nothing. No, you have to endeavor. I thought there was it was really, really hard to get all these items. So I tried my best, and the Lord reciprocated. He brought the sand and so many other things. And the whole thing was really wonderful. I invited, the Matajis, they came, they helped. And everything was wrong. If you speak about very strict standard, everything was wrong. The deities were facing west. They cannot face west, deities. I had no choice because the door was, on the north side, and then the south, there was window there. And then if I put them looking towards the east, the door will open on the altar. So I was thinking how to do, And then when you open our the small room that I did for the temple room, when you open, the next door there that you open is the toilet. Everything was completely out, but I thought what to do. I have no other choice. I cannot put it in the living room. I didn't like the idea because grihastha means what? Children will be running, throwing things, and then who knows, wife might be nagging, husband will be scolding, and everything in front of the deities. No, offenses, right? So better have one, room or a big wardrobe. So, but I was thinking, but sincerity, I tried my best to be sincere. So this feeling of helplessness, this feeling of being very low and praying to the Lord with sincere feelings, connected, being present when you're saying these things, not being evasive, because actually we're evading Krishna. Krishna is inviting us to go back and to advance and to develop love for Him, but we are sort of evading that. Otherwise, why aren't we still, shedding tears, crying for Him, and all these things? Because we don't want that yet. When we bow down towards the Him, Shastra says the deity is not different than Krishna. We come, we bow down to Krishna, and we go away. So this surrendering means to be present in your devotional activities, to try to develop the mood of that service. That is surrendering. Because actually Krishna is always giving us an opportunity to surrender. Every single moment, the service that we're doing, we can actually do it shallowly. I don't know if you can say like that. In a shallow way, or we can try to do it deeply with some feelings of love. So, as I said, everything was wrong, but when everything was completed, there was even some rainbows, there was rainbows every day on top of our garden. There was some beautiful rain. I mean, the whole thing was auspicious. It was so auspicious, even though, according to the regulative principles, there were so many wrongs. Still, the Lord reciprocated so beautifully. And that really helped me. That deity worship and to worship Shri Nitāi Gaurasundar every single day. It was me waking up. I was waking up, 3:30 at that time, and then doing the morning offering before Mangalarti. And I was doing Mangalarti most of the time alone. And I have, rhinitis in the morning often. Now it's getting better, but so very, very often I would be sneezing, and my snot would be coming out while doing pujari, and I would be using my dhoti to remove these things, So this is muchi. You cannot do that. So rules and regulations, I could not go that way. You see what I mean? I could not do perfectly this side. So what did I have left? So in that sense, I was sort of forced to try to develop my devotion, because I was doing so many mistakes. It is said, there's a verse that says that if we perform devotional service properly according to rules and regulations, the result will be 100 times better. What rules and regulations? I'm snotting in my dhoti. How am I going to make 100 times better? So I decided, I was praying also always, I'm sorry, Marlon, I'm so sorry, please, I'm committing so many offenses. Sometimes I would even, the rhinitis was so strong that while worshiping them, I had to lie down. I would lie down and sleep maybe 10 and 15 minutes, and then I would again stand up and continue the deity worship. But I was doing it, every single day, because I knew that at least if I try, somehow. So I did that for 1 year, And after that 1 year of deity worship, this is when I got the realization that actually the Lord can maintain us. We always hear that. Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord can maintain you. If you surrender, the Lord will maintain you, and so on. And you think, brahmacharis, they're in the temple, they live there, of course. You never think grihastas, So that is Shraddha. Today's verse, that everything else will be included. So giving charity, pursuing philosophical, fruitive activities. Working is a fruitive activity, because my endeavor and I get the fruit. But Krishna says, if you do devotional service, that will be also taken care of. So I had no faith actually in that. Although I was hearing it, so hearing is, reading Prabhupada books is not the same thing as actually hearing what he's saying. Hearing is made with faith. That's how it is. So therefore, this Shraddha this is Madhya, chapter 22, text 62. Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Kahe Sudridha Nishchay Krishne Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hai. By rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. This confident, firm faith, favorable to the discharge of devotional service, is called Shraddha. So there was this one class that I was listening. Prabhupada was saying that Krishna will take care of everything. You should give up everything, even your livelihood. He said that word, even your livelihood. When I heard that, I was thinking, how is it going to happen? That even I give up my livelihood, how am I going to maintain my wife and children? It doesn't make sense, because we always think materially. We think within the three modes, okay, this law, that law, you cannot go left, you cannot go right. But the Lord doesn't act like this. He will make things happen. It's not within your understanding, but it will happen. So I started to develop that faith. And I am pretty sure it's because of that 1 year of deity worship. Because for us neophyte, deity worship is so important to be regulated. You must wake up, you must do this, you must do that. So So then I thought, okay, well, let's go. And I prayed to the Lord, please, my dear Lord, help me to surrender further. I do not know what is the next step. Here I am, I'm doing deity worship, but what's next, So he made an arrangement, praying to the Lord to help us surrender means he's going to pull the rope, So it's going to hurt, but it's going to work. So this day, my wife was pregnant of our second child, our daughter. That day I went to work. And as I was going to work, at one point it started to rain very heavily, And my wife, she normally brings our son out. She used to bring our son out. So as I was coming back from work, it was raining very heavily. I was thinking, oh, maybe they're outside, in the rain and so on. So I'm coming back and I open the door, and what I see my wife breaking my son's toy like this, breaking everything. And I see my son screaming like anything, you open the door, you're tired, you come back from work, and you see this scene, So my wife breaking everything, and I was thinking, what is going on, Actually, they got cut in the rain, and our son didn't want to come back, so they all got cut in the rain because of that. And somehow, normally my wife would not be like this. So I thought this really strange. How come she's going to that extent, breaking my son's toys? And he was crying, you're breaking my toy. And so I was thinking, what is going on here? And that was the slap, That was the slap what is this thing? I'm saying now we have got one child and you're breaking the toy. When the second child comes, what's going to happen? I said, we're going with the Matajis. So that was the slap, I told him, I asked the Lord to force me to surrender. And he basically made this arrangement, the raining and everything, and my wife, having some scene, so that I just cut off because I had a comfortable situation. We had a beautiful apartment that was, of course not bought, we're renting, but very cheap, and beautiful mountains, we had the artificial lake. It was beautiful. And my job was 5 minutes away by scooter. 5 minutes away, boom, 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 3 hours in the morning, you come back, finish. Wow. It was perfect, no? Only 3 hours, you come back, you can do your deity worship, and, but I was feeling, no, I want something else. I want to preach. So that was it. And then I told my wife, I said, okay, no, finish. We're going to be moving with the Matajis. And then, but the Matajis, they were living in the central Guangzhou. The rent there is like, the cheapest apartment next to them was 5,500 yuan a month. That's 1,000 Sing dollar plus a month without job. How I'm going to do this? So I was thinking, never mind. The Lord says, you will help. Okay, we'll do it. So I started to speak about this in the vlogs. And then some devotee calls me from America. Oh, Prabhu, I'm watching your vlogs, everything. I'd like to help. Can I do something to help? I said, well, we'll be needing some, funds. So if you could give, a few hundreds a month. He said, how much do you need for the rent? I said, well, the rent is expensive. It's about $1,000 US a month. He said, I'll give 1,000 each month for 1 year. How did that happen? So we calculate, it's not possible and so on. So the Lord, he's in everyone's heart. So he had this devotee from America call me and give me $1,000 for a year. So that's it. That was it. So the apartment was paid, So then we went there, and then the preaching started, a little bit. We did some prashant distribution, some programs. Something happened, So this Shraddha has to be increased more and more and more, and it has to conquer all those fields. What are those fields? All these things here. Studying the Vedas. Now, by studying Shastra, I'll understand Krishna. Okay. No. So, just a few minutes. So, studying the Vedas. By understanding the Vedas, I'll understand Krishna. No, the other way around. Austerities, giving charity. So our devotional service should be able to slowly kick away all these things, all the way to the point that Krishna would be our only object of love. And that is hard. It's not easy, especially for us who have children. That at one point in our life, we will have to completely devote ourselves to Krishna alone. Vanaprastha sannyas, right? So that requires faith. But if we don't get ready into our grihastha ashram, how are we going to be ready one day? It's not going to come automatically. So therefore, to pray to the Lord to please force me to surrender, please engage me in your service, please, I want to do more. That is because on our own, we cannot do it. But the Lord knows how to make arrangement to push us forward. So that is our free will. Are we going to be praying to the Lord to please help me surrender? Or are we going to be saying, no, I don't want that slap? That is up to us. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai.